Welcome to our Nona. My name is Kevin Kendrick, and I am your Lake Nona expert. And every week, we are bringing you local business owners, community influencers, and of course, amazing Lake Nona residents that we think you need to hear their story so you can either see them, support them, of course, just love and cheer them on. And today, I am joined by my friend Nigel Bogaert of 5-Star Claims Adjusting. And so, Nigel, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Kevin. I appreciate it.
So, Nigel, before we get into the business of why 5-Star Claims Adjusting is super important for people when tragedy may hit their home in some capacity, let's talk about you. You and your family, you live in Lake Nona. Tell us a little bit about you and your family and what brought you to Nona.
Sure. Yeah. Born and raised in St. Pete, Florida. I crave the ocean and the beach. I have a blended family, so we have 3 kids and my wife, and we moved to Lake Nona to Laureate Park. It'll be 5 years in December, and we love it here. I got 2 kids that are in Maitland and Domerick, and then stepson who is in Lake Nona High School.
Okay. And prior to moving to Lake Nona, where were you guys at before? And what was like the thing that said, hey, we want to come to Lake Nona. This is where we want to plant our flag.
So I was in Winter Park, and my wife is going through clinicals right now to be a nurse practitioner.
Okay.
And then my parents were in Winter Park, and we found this amazing area, Lake Nona, and they've got this amazing garage apartment.
They got a garage apartments in Lake Nona that they don't have in a lot of parts of the city.
That's correct. So we found this awesome house, and my parents are above the 3-car garage. They help out with the family, and we're all there, and it's amazing. You know, we love taking the bikes up to Boxy Park, walking down to Canvas. So it's a really cool spot. We really dig it.
Awesome. Well, let's talk about, being a public adjuster. Most people, rains, hurricanes, hail, what have you, something happens to their home. They call insurance. Insurance says we're going to do X, Y, Z. And of course, insurance wants you to do X, Y, Z. But sometimes people they start talking to their neighbors and all that, and they say, hey, you should call a public adjuster.
Yeah.
Where does your role come in, and why are you important in that process?
I really think we're important from the very beginning. I really wish, I'm biased because it's our company, but I really wish people would reach out to us before they file a claim. Unfortunately, the policies now over the last 5 years have changed dramatically. They cover less. There's a lot more exclusions and endorsements. So I see a lot of people file claims when they probably shouldn't, or they have limitations in the policy that they may reconsider wanting to actually file the claim. So I'm a big proponent of send me your policy. Let me take a look, do the free inspection, and we can obviously file the claim quickly. But I think it's important to have somebody take a look at the policy first nowadays. But for sure, I think with any claim, documentation is the key to any claim. So for us, we go out, we do a free inspection, we document it, moisture map it, walk the roof, look for all the evidence that would help the homeowner in the claims process to negotiate and have a good claim outcome.
Yeah, and someone who's very naive to it, and even though I'm in the home process, so you're saying they should literally call you first, call their insurance agent, but don't file the claim, but then reach out to you or call you first?
I mean, they can. The thing is, once you start a claim, the claim's in progress. If they start the claim, that's fine. But I would say also have us come out and take a look too, because you're when you call the agent or you call the insurance company, most people aren't going to call the agent. They're going to call the insurance company in the back of their policy, and they're going to talk to somebody that's sitting behind a desk. And that call, when they make that phone call to that insurance company, that call's recorded. It's called the first notice of loss. And so whatever they say on that call can be used against and will stay in the file for the entire time. And I think people are frantic when they call these claims in sometimes. So it's picking, the right date of loss and making sure they have the right info for the claim itself, and making sure they're taking the right steps in the claim before they file it.
So if someone's calling, they should say, hey, I'm calling on behalf of a friend. This may or may not have happened at his house.
I think it's best to keep it simple, because not everybody, no homeowner generally is going to be an expert, a plumber. Like, where did the water start? How long ago did it start? I don't know. Keep it simple. There's water on the floor. I just noticed it. I need to help and I need to file a claim. I mean, keep it
Yeah.
really simple, I think, is
What
the
are
best advice.
so in Florida? Obviously, I'm sure roofs are probably one of your biggest. But what are some other maybe calamities that happen in the home where they're calling your company and you're coming out and you're just seeing and you're just like, holy mackerel! Like, what are some of the things that you're seeing on a consistent
I
basis?
would say water claims are probably the biggest thing outside of roof
Mm,
claims. I think about 60% of our business would be roof or storm related, hail,
mm,
hurricane, but the other is mostly water damage and then some fire. Water claims can tend to be a lot larger than what most people would think. They might think it to be something simple, but if the water has been leaking for 2 or 3 days and now
mm.
you've potentially got mold growth and it's gone behind a kitchen cabinet, water can travel into funny places and can be much larger damage than you would even think of.
So let's talk about like when you go into some of the older homes, they've had to be replumbed. So now they're putting PEX plumbing in the attic,
Hmm.
and these attics aren't huge in these old 1940s, 50s, 60s homes. Are you seeing a lot of water damage where the water lines are in the attic, and just over time, the plumbing kind of ruptures, and now you've got water just coming
Sure.
in from the roof?
Yeah, there's a lot of the old poly pipe stuff, which I'm sure doesn't pass inspections.
Polybutylene, we love it. That's a four-letter word in the real estate
Yeah, I bet
industry.
it is. So, you see a lot of that. Not as much anymore, but usually they use CPVC these days when they do
Mm,
the repipes. Or I don't generally see the repipes, recently getting, leaks coming from the ceiling. It's a lot more behind the walls and the slabs,
yeah.
things like that. Refrigerator supply lines, HVACs actually.
Mm,
Usually the safety switch that's on there will fail.
yep.
And then instead of it triggering off, it'll continue to leak. And that's category 3 water. It goes down and out, spreads underneath floors. That's a big one as well.
Yeah, I always tell people how do you find a good real estate agent is if they know how to pronounce polybutylene. So if they know how to do that, then they're pretty good. So, all right. So Nigel, let's talk about everything's transpired. Talk to us about filing a claim, like with you, starting with you, from the beginning to the end. Like, what's that process look like?
Sure. So we do the free inspection. We ultimately, the first thing I usually request from anybody is their policy. The policy is the contract
Mm,
between you and the insurance company. And so we dig into the policy to make sure there's no exclusions or limitations or landmines that we might come upon as we're entering into a claim. Nowadays, there's a lot of limitations on water damage, believe it or not. So, like
mm,
that pipe breaking. Nowadays, there's a lot of 10K water caps that are in there, matching statutes and endorsements. So, these limitations are such a big thing when it comes to the actual claim. And I try to let people know before we file the claim what we're walking into. But
right.
we do the free inspection. We document everything from top down. If it's a roof claim, a water claim, we thermal camera, we moisture meter everything. So we're getting our own documentation that's ours for the homeowner
Mm,
versus the insurance company sending somebody out. And now that work product that they come out and gather, that belongs to the insurance company, not the homeowner. So our goal is to try to level the playing field.
mm,
We write an estimate, we document everything, we meet the adjuster. The adjuster who comes out from the insurance company, believe it or not, is usually a third party, and
right.
that person has no authority to make a coverage decision on the claim or verify the payment. So usually that's somebody sitting behind a desk that you or I will never see or meet if we have a claim,
Mm,
and they make and hold kind of the cards for what's going to be paid and if there's going to be coverage. So we try to affect that coverage decision and the payment on that claim, and then we negotiate the claim till finality.
mm,
So you can pick and choose whatever contractors you want to use, but we ultimately are the ones that are kind of in charge of and dealing with the field adjusters, the desk adjusters, the documentation, the estimates, and we take it all the way to the finish line. And a
mm,
lot of times there's going to be well, not a lot of times. Every claim is going to end in some form of a negotiation is generally how it
right.
works. So mediation, appraisal, some form of a release, and hopefully not. And we try to keep it out of there, which is litigation. But
Right.
there's some cases, unfortunately, have to go that route.
No, fully understand that. So when you and I first met, and you said, "Hey, I'm with 5 Star," and I was like, "Dang, man, that's like a pretty bold statement." Like, because I mean, you're not 4 star, you're not 3 star, and
We're not 6 star.
no, but when we think about on the Google ratings, it's a 5 star. So, but you're in a very competitive industry. Like, what differentiates you? Because when I see 5 star, I'm like, that's what we want. 5 star reviews. That's what we ask for. So you put it in your name. So what differentiates you, from the competition, or what are you doing to stand out in a very competitive field?
Well, I think we've got a lot of 5-star reviews, you know.
That helps, especially if
I,
it's in your name.
I think we got about 1,100 5-star reviews. So
Oh,
we've,
that's amazing.
and that's just our clients, you know, speaking for the work that we've done. Um, we're a little different. Some companies that are like us, they kind of pawn a lot of their work off to a back end team that just kind of is processing the file. All of our adjusters are commission based, and they ultimately work the file from start to finish. So they've got a vested interest in the file to make sure they do well, and then they work on referrals. So we built the model, you know, that way, and we built it to be able to hire. I mean, Brian, my business partner, I could just sign our own claims and do our own thing, but we built something that we could share it with a lot of people to help not only the people that work for us and with us, but also people that are in our communities as well.
Yeah, since you talked about your partner, talk about your team. Like, how big is your team? How many do you have in the field versus in the back office?
Yep. So we've got about 80, 89, 92 licensed public adjusters throughout the state of Florida. We have an office in Fort Lauderdale, 2 in Orlando, and then 1 in Southwest Florida. We have about 9 managers and I think about 12 employees, and the rest are, you know, licensed public adjusters.
And headquartered right here in Orlando.
Yeah, in Maitland, Florida.
Awesome.
Yep.
All right. Nigel, talk to me about some of the misconceptions about public adjusters. Because when I had a roof leak, someone said, "Oh, you should call an adjuster," and I'm like, "What's that? Why would I call? You know, reach out to you first?" What are some of the misconceptions that people might have about you, your team, and what you guys do?
I think a lot of people think that to bring us in when after the insurance companies already come in to the scene, and I think that's a mistake, quite frankly. And I think there's a belief system out there, you know, for uneducated people that, you know, because we receive a percentage as if we're taking, you know, from the claim.
Right.
And I think it's just so quite the opposite. I think if people would see the value in knowing that you get one shot to present your claim to the insurance company properly and to keep it moving, and they see all the moving parts that go into a claim, I think having somebody like us in the very beginning, you know, my promise to everybody is the 80% that I get them will be far more than the 100% that they get on their own.
Yeah.
And then we do all the work on top of it. So I think there's a what am I getting for, you know, the 20% that I'm paying.
Right.
And I think people just have a hard time seeing past that sometimes.
So let's talk about just kind of how the industry's changed. Because earlier you talked about, you know, using infrared technology to see if there's water or moisture. How's the industry changed in these last couple of years?
So that's a great question, because I think that's probably what's most important to us as homeowners. So first and foremost, you know, the insurance adjusters that come out to the property, they used to carry moisture meters. They used to carry thermal cameras. They used to be able to chalk roofs. Over the last 2 to 5 years, that has changed. They don't carry this equipment, and I think they're being told not to carry it, because if they find stuff, then it's kind of not helping their ability from the insurance company to deny something. But also the policies. I mean, right now we all shop for price. Most of us all shop for price. And because of what's happened in our industry the last 2-3 years, homeowners have been scared to file claims, specifically because it's been so difficult to get insurance. And then it's been, you know, it's been very expensive to get insurance. And I think that's a failure somewhere in our system. But these policies that we're buying, that we're paying a premium for, and they're difficult to get, have way less coverage in them than they did 3 to 5 years ago. And those things are things that I kind of briefly touched on. Is they, you know, if you go out of town for the weekend, you come back and you have this pipe break and you've got water all over your floor, you look in this policy, it says LWD, limited water damage endorsement, and it caps it at 10,000. You have 10 grand in coverage, period, to dry it, fix it, do whatever. And we both know kitchen cabinets are probably going to be 25 to 30 grand minimum.
Right.
And and Laureate Park, they're going to be probably a lot more. But
Right.
So I think those are just, you know, some of the little things that have changed. They're not paying for continuous or matching stuff, which means if you have floors that are damaged, they'll only pay a small percentage for the undamaged portion, as opposed for continuous floors. So there's a lot of changes that have happened in these policies for sure.
Yeah, when we had a water leak. It's an old house, I think before COVID, but we had continuous flooring. But the damage was only in the master bedroom. And so we actually got, we received funds on continuous flooring, which was pretty awesome, because we weren't expecting that.
Sure.
We were expecting like for a small, you know, 4x4 piece. And so it was very good. So Nigel, most people don't realize that you and your team coming out, that's generally free, like the commercial, free, 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 free. Tell us about the inspection process, how much it does cost, and how would they get in touch with you and your team?
Yeah, so they can go to fivestarclaimsadjusting.com. My cell phone is 954-812-4020. But either way, they can go and call us. We'll get a copy of the policy. The inspection is literally free. We go out, we take a look, and we determine whether or not we can help you. There's a lot of cases we can't help. And so I think that's first and foremost is we go out, we document it, we review the policy, we talk to the homeowner, and we see if there's an opportunity to help. Whether it's a reopen claim, a brand new claim, a denied claim, any of those things we can go back and we can take a look at regardless of where you are in the process and just see if we can help. So it costs you nothing to have us come out and, see if we can help.
Awesome. Well, Nigel, thank you so much for joining me today. And I want to thank you guys for watching. And so, of course, if you enjoyed watching Nigel and Five Claims Adjusting, hey, make sure you leave a comment below. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. And as always, we're going to make sure we put all of our guest speakers' contact information below so that way you can connect with them. And of course, if you know someone that I should be interviewing next, make sure you tag them below or shoot me a message so we can find time to bring them into the studio. And as always, have an amazing day.